Thank you so much. I already feel like I have made some friends and acquaintances in the half hour that I was already here, and it does bring me great pleasure to be here, and that was a nice introduction. But he's right. We were, I think, 5 in your family and 7 of ours. My father was a farmer. Uncle Joe, his dad, was we all just labored over every nickel and dime that we had. But we thought, I didn't know better. I thought everybody lived like that. I didn't know that people didn't have indoor toilets in their house until I went to school when I was 7 years old. But in the family, it just was, how can I explain it? It just was united. And we did not know the difference until the outside world came into our world. But there was a mother and a father, and I have 6 brothers and sisters, and the youngest of the 7 is a brother with Down syndrome. And he would have come with me tonight, and he lives with me. But a month ago, my family came to visit, and I live in Montgomery, and at the last minute, he takes me to my bedroom, and my name to him is Dodie. And he's, Dodie, you come here, I want to talk to you. So we go into the bedroom, and he said, is it okay if I go home? I'm not going to take all my stuff. So all his stuff was going to remain in my house. And I said, of course, Mijito, it's okay if you want to go, because you have choices. And that privilege was sent to us by my parents. They told us a long time ago that we had choices. And we started our lives picking cotton. And I hated it. I hated for school to be over with, because I knew that end of May, June 1st, we were getting up super early at the age of, I was 9 when I started picking cotton, and getting the only one pair of blue jeans on, and the only t-shirt on, and the only long sleeve shirt on, and a hat to go pick cotton for, 5 cents a pound. And I welcomed school to start in August. And it always started in September. So for 3 months, we worked. And for 3 months, I never saw my friends. And I was explaining to somebody earlier they said something about swimming. And I said, I did not know how to swim. I learned as an adult, not well, but I did. And my friend asked me, of course you learn how to swim. Everybody knows how to swim. And I said, no, because when you were learning, I was picking cotton. And so I don't know. And I decided to learn, and the only way that I was going to force myself to learn is that I entered a triathlon. And it was a small one. And it happened to be here in Kingwood. It was a long time ago during my married years, which we all know that didn't always last. So, but I know I had 22 good years. But I decided to, and 2 boys and 2 grandchildren later, so it's okay. So I decided to enter this triathlon and force myself to learn. And the reason I tell you the story is that was the drive that my parents told us, is that you can make choices, and when you make those choices, you must be responsible for your actions afterwards. Something Dr. Phil always says. For every action, there's a consequence. Sometimes it's good, and sometimes it's not so good. And as a counselor, before I went into my other business, I used to tell high school students all the time, you make choices. And they would say to me, at that time, my married name was Powell, and so I always went by Dr. Powell. And they said, well, you had opportunities in school. And I said, how do you know that? How do you know I had opportunities? Well, look at you. You've got your PhD, and you've got this. And I said, but you don't understand what it took for me to get there. It took a lot of work for me to get there. And I made those choices of sacrifice to get there. But they want it very easy now. And I was listening to CNN this morning, and it just so happened they were talking about high school statistics. And I decided to write it down, and the first thing that I could get, which was, Bank One or Capital One envelope, and it said that a national average of high school graduates, holistically, is 69.9. That's not right. That's something's very wrong when we have opportunity, when we have buildings, when we have teachers, when we have education. But yet, our national average of high school graduates is 69.9. And we all know that if we look at that holistically, when we look at subclasses and the Hispanic class, that's always lower than the white class. It always is. So that just goes to show you what is happening in our education and why do we continue to have so many dropouts. Well, in that, I want to tell you a little bit about my family. And I brought something, I almost brought a PowerPoint, but the PowerPoint I was going to bring had a lot of statistics in it. And then I thought, I'm only going to speak for 20 to 30 minutes, and I didn't want to talk about stats. But what I did want to share with you was coming from a very humble Hispanic family that kind of like the Waltons, but it was a Mexican Walton family. Because we had the same amount of children. There was a mother, father, and a grandmother there. And in our house, the same. We just didn't have the grandfather. And we had 10 in a little bitty house, not much bigger than this room, that was divided into just, cut and with walls. But I look at back now and thought, how rich we must have been, because I had that. We didn't have a lot of money, but I had that. I didn't know any different. But it all came from here. And I was telling Betty, we were talking about Joe's mom and dad, and my mother and father. And I was saying to somebody that when I chose to marry, in '84, I was weighing 105 pounds, and my whole goal was that I wanted to wear this dress. And I got the dress, and there's a lot of lace in the dress, but I couldn't close the back. So I decided, I'm going to lose a lot of weight so I can get into this dress. I couldn't do it. And I really wish that I would have just reproduced the dress, because that was my dream, was to wear this dress. But I ended up making my own wedding dress, but it wasn't this one. But these two people that were simple, were so smart. And I work in schools right now, and what we have in our schools is I see a lot of kids having kids, and so they don't come to school with substance anymore. My mom and papa had substance, and they knew how to discipline, and they were hard. And they were real hard with the girls. And I used to tell Papa, that's not fair. How come Ramiro can do certain things? And he would say, porque él es hombre. And I would say, that's not fair, that's not fair. And now I know, well, it's not supposed to be fair. It's not supposed to be equal. It is supposed to be. And it's not my divine road, it is God's divine road. And I learned that through them, not through school. So when we were picking cotton, and Papa used to say, I want better for you, and in order for you to have better, you have to stay in school. That's your only ticket out. That is what made me go to college. Because as a senior in high school, and once again from June through August, I was picking cotton. And I said, you know what, Mama, I'm not going to do this ever again, ever. I'm going to college. And luckily there was a college close by, Pan American, and I enrolled in it, but I didn't have any money. And Mama didn't have any money, Papa didn't have any money, and we were 7 of us, and so how do you give one without giving to all? And so I went to a work-study program and a short-term loan, and that's how I did it. So it is choices that we make, and I tell that to kids. It is your choice. If you want it, it's there. And I was talking to Joe earlier about scholarships, and I told him, I said, my career as a high school counselor a while back, I had some students that said, my parents don't have any money to send me to school. And this was in Schulenburg, and I don't know if you know where Schulenburg is, but you almost need a little bit of a passport to get into Schulenburg, because it's very knitted. And here I am, an outsider coming in that's also Hispanic. It was a little bit tough, but I kept thinking, there's a reason why I'm here. And I didn't seek that job, but I did take it. And so I had this one student that said, I want to go to college, but my mother, single mom, doesn't have any money. And I said, well, then go to college. You can go, Christina, if you want. She said, I can't. How do I go? Well, your grades are fairly decent. She was like a